coming a little bit to the personal side of your own life, Sapna. When you look at the stages of your life from childhood to where you are today, at each of those stages, would you say that there has been someone who has had an influence on you?
Yeah, you know what? I think there's always been a lot of things that have stuck, I think, for me. I remember when we opened, someone had once said to me when they came by, they said, not everyone you start with will stay with you forever. They're not, you're not going to have the same team you have today 5 or 10 years from now. And I actually, I thought that they were crazy. And I realized that was fundamentally very, very true. And it's not a form of weakness. It's not a form of rejection. It's just the reality of growth and what sort of happens to you in business, and not being, tied to fear in your business. I think that was really important because, you do hold a lot of more answers to your business than you think. I had a lot of interesting things said to me. So I do remember, when growing up, like I said, I had the choice of, going into chiropractic. And I think for my dad, I think a big thing for him was, don't just crack bones. And I don't think he meant that in the sort of context of treating patients and, being more like treating more like a physio or doing more hands-on things. I don't think he meant that. I just think he meant more as in, don't be known as just somebody who, is just siloed in what they do in that one profession. Like a chiropractor is known for, cracking joints, providing adjustments or spinal manipulative therapy. Like, it's really interesting that perception is what he said, it kind of resonated as like, okay, cool. I think for me that resonated as be a change maker, do something different, be known for something, leave a sort of message behind to your community. And so that really resonated with me. And I think from, that sort of comment, as well as telling me not to be a bone setter. Tell me stories about I was barber where, they were bone setters back in India.
Yeah, I know.
And a crack of the neck. Right? So I think he probably also meant that too. Don't be a bone setter. So I can proudly say I am not just a bone setter anymore in my career. And, I think I think we all get a lot of these little voices along the way in our journey. And I think I've always used a lot of those voices to sort of, prove the path of, if you think I'm only capable of this, I'm going to try to be capable of this. And again, I don't think it's really to prove a point to the people who don't believe in me, but it's really about testing my own capabilities. Because I think for me, I'm always just like, well, why can't I do that?
Right.
Why shouldn't I do that? That is really hard, but why not? I'm okay to take that challenge on. And I think as I get older and I get more, sort of entrenched in these challenges and opportunities in business, I think for me, I'm almost more excited to take on the harder challenges and try to figure out if I can learn it, because I feel like it also is making me sort of really constantly push the envelope with where I can grow and what I can continue to learn, what I'm good at and what I need to work on.
Yeah. And have you always been a risk taker, like from when you were a little kid?
You know what? I feel like I've always erred on the side of a little bit of riskiness. Like, I was that person that fell asleep in class. I still remember I picked up and went to India. I won this photo shoot challenge, and it was right in the middle of a very, very short module in school. And there was a bunch of exams, and I picked up right in the middle of it and came back 4 days later to write the exams. And, I remember everyone just thinking I was completely crazy in school. So I think I've always had a little bit of this sort of lack of consequence kind of mentality, or I'll figure it out. I think I feel like I will definitely kind of do some things that are maybe questionable, but I'll always make sure that I'll kind of find it through and finish it, and make sure it all works out in the end. I won't let something sit half empty.
It's such an important quality for an entrepreneur,
which I don't think I realized at the time. I just never put a lot of that emphasis on myself as an entrepreneur until honestly, probably more recently. I don't even think I viewed myself when I started my own businesses as being an entrepreneur. I think that feeling of truly feeling like I am an entrepreneur really only came, I would say, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. About 2 or 3 years after I was, embarked on the clinic journey is when I started to really treat myself and act like an entrepreneur and come to terms with the fact that I am an entrepreneur. I think there was a little bit of that imposter syndrome that sort of came about it, and that feeling of oh, no one that I don't want to come across as sounding fake or someone questioning that I'm not truly an entrepreneur because. And I just realized, well, no, I am an entrepreneur because. And so, just flipping the way that I kind of interpreted that.
Right. The dialogue in your head.
Yeah. It was always the dialogue in your own head. And I think a lot of us face that, right? It's always that question, well, what if? Well,
sure. What was that identity you held for those first 2 or 3 years that you said you didn't identify as an entrepreneur?
I just couldn't accept the attention or the sort of, I guess, I don't want to use the word recognition, but the validation of, you know, what we were building and what we had built. I think for me, I couldn't come to terms with sometimes when people are like, oh, wow, you built this. I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't think I could put a lot of that focus 100% in owning that title. And I almost felt like I needed to suppress a bit of that. And it wasn't that I wasn't confident. I don't think it was that, but I think it was just really starting to come into my own self in this role, starting to really, you know, accept it and realize that, you know, I am a clinician. Yes. And I think it was really that I was really trying to hold on to that clinician hat, trying to continue to feel relatable to clinicians, but not, you know, really fully letting myself explore the other side of who I was. But now I realize, you know, I can be both and I can, you know, really shine in both. It's just being accepting of both equally.